So you might feel as though you're doing okay. Your bills are paid, you're going out with friends, you're saving a bit of money here and there. But what if I told you, even with all of that, you could still be falling behind financially and not even know it? You see, the signs that you're falling behind aren't entirely obvious. So today I want to discuss the 12 signs you might be falling behind financially and not even know about it. We'll look at what these signs are, why they're dangerous, and how you can fix them. But before we get into it, just watch this moment from The Bear that I think perfectly captures what it is we're talking about.
And then I started at this really great place as a commie, and this other chef started the same day as me. And I thought we were competition, but really we weren't. He was better than me, much, much better than me.
And that's Luca, played by Will Poulter. And what he's describing, that's exactly the trap that we're going to be discussing in this video. And what he says next might be the most important part, which we'll come back to at the end. So let's dive into the first one. You are saving too much. Now, clearly this is a controversial one to start off with, but let's discuss it. It goes without saying that saving is an important part of your financial journey, but it doesn't do all the things which your parents might have said it would do. Our parents or our grandparents' generation might have even talked about saving for retirement, but that completely misses the whole point of investing, which is to build wealth over time and benefit from compound interest. But not only that, the rate of the return that you'll get from a savings account is going to be frankly meager compared to the average returns of the market over time by investing. Say you save £500 a month over 30 years. If you're a saver, and let's be generous and say you got an average 3% on your savings, you'd have about £290,000 at the end of 30 years. But if you'd invested that money and got an average rate of 10% per year, the average return of the S&P 500, you would have over £1 million. And this is fundamentally because investing allows your money to go out and work for you. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Plenty of people avoid investing because they feel as though it's risky. They look at it in pop culture and it's all people screaming at screens and gambling, and at the end of the day, it looks no better than a Las Vegas casino. But the truth is, when it comes to investing, there is a broad spectrum of potential investing options available to you. And the truth is, investing has never been more accessible. You can pick up your phone and start your investing journey in just a few clicks. Our next sign is your income isn't growing. Your income, for the vast majority of people, will be the primary way that you build wealth. But as we've just talked about with saving, this misses out on a potentially fundamental aspect, which is unless your income is growing at least the rate of inflation, then you're getting worse off every single year. As prices steadily increase across the board, your purchasing power gradually gets diminished over time. And I know it can be very easy to be trite and just say, go out and earn more money. And it's not necessarily as straightforward as that, is it? But there are things that you can do, and you might have more chips on the table than you expect. And whilst it can seem daunting, just take a look at this study here. According to a Fidelity study, negotiating works. While the research found less than half of Americans negotiated their current salary, among those who counted on salary, benefits, and other compensation, 85% got at least some or all of what they asked for. So whilst negotiating on your salary can be extremely daunting, there is empirical proof that it does work. So you might make a good salary. You might be looking at your salary and thinking, yeah, it's increasing from one year to the next. But at the same time, if you're not really thinking about how you're spending your money, then you could be falling behind financially. You could even be falling behind people who make less than you, because they're really thinking about how they spend their money and what they do with it. The next sign is you don't think before spending money. Now, I want to be entirely clear at this stage. I'm not necessarily saying that every time you want to buy a Mars bar, you have to go and meditate on it for 45 minutes about whether or not this Mars bar fulfills your longer term financial ambitions. But at the same time, if you are just going out and spending cash impulsively, even if you have it, you might not necessarily be getting the most from your money. Just because you have the money doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend it. And we should also clarify that I'm not talking about necessarily just spending less, but getting more from what you do spend, and maybe that does involve spending less. So what can you do to try and control your impulse spending? The first thing you can do is look at the opportunity cost of the money you're about to spend. This is a term from economics, which is basically a list of all the other things you could do with that money. So if you want to go out to a fancy restaurant and the bill's going to be 300 quid or something, not my cup of tea, but for some people it might be, then maybe think to yourself, what else could that £300 do? Maybe that's £300 that could go towards your credit card debt. Maybe that's £300 that you could do something else with. You can think about the time it takes. Look at your take-home pay and divide that by the number of hours you worked. That gives you how long it would take you to earn the money that you're about to spend. That will reframe your thinking. And the third thing is consider the marginal cost. Is there some other thing that you can spend your money on where you'll get the majority of the benefit at a fraction of the cost? Being able to get on top of this impulse spending and all these tiny little leaks in your budget can make a surprising difference. But I really want to make this bit clear. I'm not talking about saving and scrimping every single penny. I'm just talking about really thinking about how you spend your money. Maybe after you implement some of these changes, you don't actually spend any less, but you get more satisfaction, you get more utility or more happiness out of the money that you are spending, rather than maybe on the mindless junk you had been spending your money on. The next sign is you don't have enough insurance. So insurance can be absolutely your last line of financial defense should the worst happen. You need to make a claim on your car insurance or on your home insurance or, God forbid, on your life insurance, but these things do happen. So making sure you have sufficient insurance in place can just be absolutely critical. And this gets to be even more important when you have people who rely on you financially. According to the Association of British Insurers, insurers in the UK pay out £22 million every single day in life, critical illness and income protection claims, showing how frequently people rely on these safety nets. And don't get me wrong, I get it that maybe insurance doesn't necessarily capture the imagination or the representations in pop culture in the same way investing does. But I would argue that it is just as important as your investing journey. And the stats speak for themselves in the UK. Just take a look at some of these numbers. 44% of UK workers have no income protection. Only 43% of people in the UK have life insurance. As of 2024, approximately 35% of UK adults have life insurance. And this is a trend which has unfortunately been declining. We talked about this in the previous video, but look at these numbers here. You can see they start from a higher point, but they have gradually declined over time. Next sign is you rely on a single income source. I often refer to this Warren Buffett quote when it comes to living on a single income. If your salary is your only source of income, you're one step away from poverty. Now, the truth is that having multiple sources of income has a few really key benefits. The first one is you can get to your financial goals faster. Frankly, if you've got more money coming in the door and you can still keep your expenses under control, then it's just a way to get to your goals faster. It can provide you with a safety net. We'll be talking about emergency funds later on in the video, but having another source of income, if you lose your primary, can be a really helpful backup. And this is something that rich people understand. We've talked before about this study here from the IRS, which found that the average US millionaire has 7 sources of income. And we should also be very clear that creating multiple sources of income doesn't necessarily mean getting another job. Maybe it's passive income that you can generate through investing, which we've already covered. Maybe it's turning some of your existing skills into a freelance opportunity. Maybe it's building a small side hustle business, which you can operate with little to no startup costs and which you can manage in your spare time. And here's the bottom line ultimately. If you rely on a single income, then that is a single potential source of failure. And we should also talk about another really important point, which is you are most likely to lose your job when the economy is doing badly. And that's a time when it is going to be more difficult to find a new job. So you get hit with this double whammy of potentially losing your job and then being in a situation where it is even more difficult to find a new one. So I think this is one of the really underrated parts of these whole conversations. You don't save and invest regularly. So on this channel, we talk a lot about becoming a consistent investor, not a sporadic saver. You want to be consistently putting money away rather than just relying on your memory or rather than just when you have a bit of cash. Turning into an automated bill that comes out of your account every single month can be one of the most powerful ways to build wealth over time. But there are other financially mathematical reasons why investing consistently over time is the best way to go. And just take a look at this analysis here. Over the last 20 years, if you stayed fully invested in an S&P 500 index fund, your money should have grown by 9.8% a year. But if you miss the best 10 days, that goes all the way down to $29,000. And if you miss the best 20 days, you're all the way down at $17,000. And we covered similar analysis in the previous video, but I think this really just emphasizes how important it is to stay consistently invested in the markets. Don't necessarily get distracted by the ups and the downs, the swings, the bad news, the good news, and the downright gloomy. Being consistently invested is just the way to go, and this analysis proves it. But what this is really saying is if you're in and out of the market really sporadically, you risk losing some of the best gaining days in the market, and that can have catastrophic effects on your returns. And just one last piece of empirical evidence on this one. This study from Fidelity in 2023 found customers who set up automatic investing in retirement accounts had 50% higher average balances after 10 years. Maybe you have money in an ISA and you're feeling pretty good about it, and kudos to you, there's no doubt about it. But at the same time, if you're constantly putting money in and out and pulling money out when you need it to cover your emergencies, then that can be a really key sign that you are maybe not doing as well as you thought. And the empirical analysis that we've discussed really shows that. I think this is one of the fundamental ways that people might get lured into this false sense of security, that they're doing better financially, but actually they're falling behind. Our next sign is you don't invest in personal growth. So we've talked about investing in the markets and the returns that you can make and all that sort of thing. But we also talked right at the start of the video about how your income is probably going to be the most important asset when it comes to building your wealth. And this is an investment which is so often overlooked. And again, there are a few different things you can do here. Personal investments could be something like training skills that are in high demand for your particular job. It might be joining professional organizations to help expand your network. It might be finding a mentor who has achieved what you really want to achieve. It might be consuming content that really expands your horizons and improves your professional knowledge. And speaking of impulse spending, that brings us on to our next point. You misuse credit. Now, again, I don't necessarily want to be one of these people who says you should never have any kind of credit ever. I think it's perfectly reasonable to assess that credit has an important part to play in your life. Getting a mortgage is, I think, a perfectly reasonable credit to take on. You're still borrowing money, but you're using it to build equity in an asset, which in all probability is going to appreciate over time. I'm also quite different to a lot of other people in this space. I think borrowing money to get a car is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, but with a few important caveats. Buying a used car so you don't get the absolutely tectonic depreciation that a new car does. I think putting down a decent sized deposit of at least 20% and borrowing the rest is another smart move. That way, if you do run into financial trouble, you can potentially just sell the car and not be underwater on your loan. So just make sure when it comes to credit, you're really thinking about how you're using it. But for the most part, avoiding buy now, pay later, avoiding credit card debt is absolutely key. The interest on that credit card debt will very quickly snowball and accumulate faster and faster and faster. So credit card debt can hide a whole host of financial sins. The next sign is your debt to income ratio is over 40%. Now, what this ultimately signals is that you're over leveraged. You've taken on too much debt. We talked earlier on about how make sure you're using the right debt for the right job, but this is clearly something that you can take too far. But what is your debt to income ratio? Well, let's look at an example. If you earn £3,000 a month and your total debt repayments are £1,200 a month, then your debt to income ratio is 40%. And this has some really key potential drawbacks. Stops you from investing yourself, as we've just discussed. It stops you investing in the markets to potentially build your financial future. It leaves you vulnerable to emergencies or unexpected costs. And it can be a key leading indicator for risk when it comes to how much you can borrow. And I think the key drawback to this is it just can absolutely crater your financial resilience. You just don't necessarily have that financial resilience or that financial armor. So if you do get an expected bill, so much of your income is taken up repaying debts that you've already accumulated that these can potentially wipe you out. You don't have an emergency fund. A minute ago, we were talking about having a single income and how relying on a single income can be risky. Well, one of the ways you can mitigate that risk is having a fully funded emergency fund. Typical advice is to have between 3 and 6 months of your fixed expenses. So in the event that you do lose your job, you have money that you can fall back onto. And that's really where your emergency fund steps in. Your car breaks down, you get an expensive MOT bill, you need to do some emergency work on your house, your radiator breaks, your boiler starts leaking, whatever it may be. That is something that can be covered by your emergency fund. And again, lots of people assume that money in, money out, as long as one is less than the other, then they're doing all right. And to some degree, that's true. But not having an emergency fund does potentially leave you very vulnerable and means that you can potentially start to fall behind if you have to call on emergency. You spend too much on housing. Now, we should start with a very obvious factor here, which is housing affordability in the UK is pretty much at the worst it's ever been. I saw a report that said housing hasn't been this unaffordable since the Napoleonic War, which is just insane to even say, but no matter. So I think it's fair to say that a decent chunk of this is potentially outside of your control. Houses are just way more expensive compared to incomes than they have been for decades. But nevertheless, there is still a temptation to go out and get a bigger house in a nicer part of town, maybe put a smart car on the drive, and that could potentially leave you really stuck. Your housing costs are generally fixed, whether it's your mortgage or your rent. And so it means that should you fall onto harder financial times, it's not necessarily a cost that you can trim back. It's not like driving around less for having the heating on less. It is unfortunately a fixed bill. And the final sign is your net worth isn't growing. In some ways, everything that we've discussed in this video ultimately leads to this point. Whether it's you've got too much debt, whether your income isn't growing, whether you think you're doing all right financially, if your net worth isn't growing from one year to the next, then this can be a sign that you might be falling behind financially, that you're not consistently accumulating assets or reducing your liabilities. So just by tracking your net worth from one year to the next, it can be a really helpful way to make sure that you're hitting your financial targets. So here's the rest of the video from the bear that we talked about right at the start.
So I started looking at it like it was a good thing. Like at least I knew who the best was now and I could take that pressure off myself. And the only logical thing to do was to try and keep up with him. So I never left this guy's side.
And you got better.
Oh, mate, I got better than I ever thought I possibly could be. just from trying to keep up with him.
And I think this is sound advice. Using a lot of this information to reassess what your financial priorities are, how you can potentially use it to turn things around for your finances. Maybe you thought you were doing okay financially. You had credit card debt, but it was manageable. You were in a maybe slightly bigger house and you thought that was a good sign. But the truth is that might be one of the things that's holding you back. So using this as an opportunity to reassess what your financial priorities are and how you can rejig your finances might be something that will be really helpful for you, getting you on the path to building wealth and to live the life that you want to live. We have 2 other videos I really recommend you watch. We have this video here about ISA millionaires and the tricks that they've used to get there. And we have this video here covering some of the key pension mistakes that so many people make. Your pension is going to fund your retirement, and lots of people treat it as a problem they can kick into the long grass. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe.